In Vladivostok, 2 years ago, the night is still and cold, with the faint glow of distant city lights barely penetrating the darkness. Underneath a towering bridge that looms over the landscape, a large mansion with a steeple stands prominently, its lights eerily aglow against the black sky. Leaning casually against the side of a white van parked nearby, Dimitri, a young man with a rugged appearance, flicks his lighter and ignites a cigarette, exhaling smoke with an air of frustration. He grumbles to himself, irritated by the fact that the best assignment Barefoot could give him was a mere pickup job. The frustration in his voice deepens as he mutters about how degrading it is to be picking up children, of all things. In the distance, small figures come into view. Orphans, their faces expressionless, being shepherded by a woman who appears to be a nun. The children move in eerie unison, their hollow eyes giving off a sense of lifelessness that unnerves Dimitri. Before he can dwell on it further, Rachel, the nun-like figure leading the children, interrupts his thoughts. With an air of authority, she corrects his earlier complaint, explaining that these aren't just children, they're the good kids of Dead Mansion, a term that carries a chilling weight. Despite their youthful appearance, there's something disturbingly unnatural about them, something that makes them seem more like products than people. Rachel then demands Dimitri's identification, remarking that he's younger than she expected. Annoyed by her comment, Dimitri fires back with a sarcastic retort, pointing out the irony of being called young by someone who's escorting children. Rachel, unbothered by his attitude, begins ushering the children into the van with an urgency that makes Dimitri uneasy. She cryptically mentions that something is about to explode, a statement that puzzles him. He begins to ask what she means when suddenly, the night is torn apart by a deafening roar as the mansion behind him erupts into a massive ball of fire. The explosion shakes the ground, and Dimitri spins around, eyes wide in shock, shouting in disbelief as the flames consume the once grand building. Amidst the chaos, Rachel remains eerily calm, snapping Dimitri out of his stupor and urging him to focus. With a steely tone, she instructs him to get in the van and drive, her composure starkly contrasting the inferno raging behind them. As they speed away from the burning mansion, Dimitri, still reeling from the explosion, demands an explanation. His voice is laced with anger and confusion as he asks if Rachel is responsible for the destruction. Unfazed, Rachel calmly denies any involvement, revealing that the real culprits are the children in the back of the van. As she addresses the children, Rachel asks if their field trip was beneficial, to which they respond in unison, their voices emotionless as they affirm her question. The scene is surreal as Rachel begins to debrief the children on their mission. She starts with David, who is in the middle of unloading his gun. She critiques him, noting that he used too many grenades earlier and reminding him of the importance of maintaining his weapon, a crucial aspect of being a professional. Next, she turns to Amy, who looks visibly tense as Rachel comments on her performance, advising her to stay calm during missions and to work on her awkward speech. Tom, sitting silently in the back row, receives a reprimand for his noisy footsteps, with Rachel reminding him of the importance of stealth. Finally, she scolds Eddie, who has a mouthful of candy, ordering him to get rid of the sweets he pilfered from the mansion's meeting room, warning that such items could be traced back to them. Listening to this bizarre exchange, Dimitri can't help but laugh, incredulous at the idea that these children were the ones who blew up the mansion. When he voices his disbelief, Rachel reiterates that they're not just children. They're the good kids of Dead Mansion, a statement that seems to carry an ominous significance. As she speaks, her expression turns to one of disgust as she reaches over and snatches the cigarette from Dimitri's mouth. She breaks it in half, her voice firm as she orders him to put it out, citing the children's health as her concern. With the cigarette gone, Rachel removes her nun's habit, revealing a more casual appearance. She mentions that she was informed Dimitri is the brother of Bare Knuckle, the leader of Barefoot, but adds that he doesn't seem to know much about the world they operate in. Dimitri, taken aback by her bluntness, starts to protest, but he's cut off as Rachel begins tying back her hair. In that moment, Dimitri catches a glimpse of her extraordinary beauty and for a brief second, he's left speechless, a blush creeping up his face. Rachel, noticing his reaction, asks if something is wrong, but Dimitri, flustered, quickly brushes it off and refocuses on driving. Desperate to shift the conversation away from his embarrassment, Dimitri notices a scar on Rachel's face, one that he hadn't seen before. In an attempt to lighten the mood, he jokingly asks if the scar was the work of the children in the back. Before Rachel can answer, David, one of the children, speaks up, saying it's a bit different. Rachel, touching the scar on her forehead, reminisces about bittersweet times, revealing that she received the scar while disciplining someone named Cion, a name that clearly carries weight. Dimitri, sensing the gravity of the moment, asks Rachel to elaborate on who Cion is. Rachel, still lost in her memories, describes Cion as a legendary masterpiece of Dead Mansion. She explains that the mansion gave Cion a second name, besides his original one, calling him Masterpiece due to his exceptional talents. A flashback reveals a young Cion, already tattooed, kneeling before the mansion's director, who affectionately pats his head. Rachel's voice turns melancholic as she mentions that they've lost Cion, and she wonders aloud if he's still alive. She then asks Dimitri to inform her if he ever comes across Cion. Dimitri, intrigued, asks how he would recognize Cion, to which Rachel responds by telling him to look for the OGIN.1 tattoo on his back. The scene then shifts to the present day, showing Cion, lithe and muscular, the OGIN.1 tattoo prominently displayed on his back, a stark reminder of his past. The intense confrontation between the masterpiece of Dead Mansion, Cion, and Dmitri Grizzly Medvedev, the second in command of Barefoot, reaches a fever pitch. Dmitri stands amidst the chaos, his breath heavy, but laughter bubbling from his throat as he clutches his injured arm. The realization that Rachel has finally tracked down Cion, the elusive and legendary figure known as the Masterpiece, seems to both thrill and amuse him. With a fierce glint in his eyes, Dimitri acknowledges the gravity of the situation, admitting that he can no longer view Cion as just a kid. The playful tone of their earlier exchanges is gone, replaced by a serious determination. He raises his injured arm, the one he had once wielded with effortless power, and shakes it vigorously. The sickening sound of bones snapping back into place echoes in the air, a testament to Dimitri's resilience and raw strength. With a quick motion, Dimitri grips the edge of his shirt with his left, uninjured hand and rips it off, casting the torn fabric aside. His bare torso is revealed, showcasing a physique that is a testament to years of battle-hardened experience. His chest and shoulders are rippling with muscle, each scar etched into his skin, telling the story of countless fights and survival against the odds. Despite the blood trickling from his wounds, he shrugs his massive shoulders, his body language conveying readiness to continue the brutal battle. Dimitri's eyes lock onto Cion, and with a determined snarl, he challenges him to settle their conflict not as enemies, but as men. The tension between them is palpable, the air thick with the anticipation of the violent clash that is about to resume. The fight is no longer about orders or missions. It has become a personal test of strength, will, and honor. Before Cion has a chance to react, a knife suddenly appears mere inches from his face, thrust with astonishing speed and precision by Dimitri. Despite his arm being severely injured just moments ago, Dimitri moves as if unhindered, demonstrating a remarkable recovery that defies logic. Cion instinctively ducks under the knife's path, feeling the blade slice through his hair, narrowly missing him. However, Dimitri is relentless, immediately following up by grabbing Cion around the neck with both hands, lifting him off the ground and slamming a knee into his stomach with bone-crushing force. The impact reverberates through the room, the sheer power of the blow evident in the sharp gasp that escapes Sion's lips. But Cion isn't one to be easily overpowered. With swift reflexes, he grabs onto Dimitri's arms, using them as leverage to launch a counterattack. He drives his forehead into Dimitri's chin with a fierce headbutt, causing Dimitri to stagger backward and release his grip. As Cion lands back on his feet, he quickly assesses the damage, glancing down at his already bruised and reddened stomach where Dimitri's knee had struck. The pain is sharp, and he wonders if his ribs are cracked, but there's no time to dwell on it as Dimitri charges at him once more, bellowing that their fight is far from over. Dimitri swings his blade in a deadly arc, aiming to cut Cion down, but Cion manages to evade by quickly stepping back. The blade slices through the air, narrowly missing its mark. Dimitri swings again, and Cion dodges once more, retreating further backward, all the while thinking to himself how many times he has struck Dimitri in the head, yet the man seems utterly unaffected. Dimitri's strength and resilience are beyond anything Cion has encountered, and it's clear he's dealing with an opponent who won't go down easily. As Cion continues to evade the relentless attacks, he suddenly realizes that he's been driven back into the corner of the room, his retreat blocked by a shelving unit. Dimitri's latest slash narrowly misses Cion, embedding itself deep into the wood of the shelf. With a growl of frustration, Dimitri grabs the blade with both hands and drags it down, tearing through the shelves and sending books and items crashing to the floor. Cion, with no other option, throws himself to the ground to avoid the debris and the deadly edge of the blade. Dimitri's face contorts with a crazed joy, clearly reveling in the fight. He looms over Cion, his blade poised to strike again. Dimitri accuses Cion of merely dodging, his voice filled with venom, and brings the blade down with all his might. But before the blade can reach him, Cion's voice cuts through the tension, asking Dimitri if he ever received any awards as a child, a question that catches Dimitri off guard. As Dimitri processes the strange question, Cion uses the momentary distraction to his advantage, having grabbed a hefty award plaque from the wrecked shelf. Without waiting for Dimitri's response, Cion drives the plaque into Dimitri's ribcage with all his strength. Dimitri winces in pain, his earlier bravado faltering for the first time. Cion then thrusts the award plaque at Dimitri's neck, mocking him by offering it as an award for his persistence. The impact is brutal, and Dimitri's grip on the plaque tightens as he struggles to breathe, blood seeping from his mouth and nose. Cion coldly tells Dimitri to consider it a souvenir from his time in Korea, before pulling his right hand back and slamming it into the plaque, driving it deeper into Dimitri's neck. For the first time, Dimitri's seemingly invincible demeanor begins to crack. His eyes glaze over as he chokes on his own blood, the vicious blows finally taking their toll. Dimitri's body slumps to the ground, unconscious, and Cion stands over him, his expression cold and unfeeling. With a final cutting remark, he tells Dimitri to add the big award to his resume, his voice dripping with sarcasm. As Cion turns to leave, he massages his right shoulder, feeling the strain of the intense fight. He considers whether he should catch up with Rachel, but something on the desk nearby catches his attention. He reaches out, lifting a photo to examine it more closely. At that moment, Dimitri's hulking figure rises behind him, having grabbed a golf club from a toppled bag. With a roar of fury, Dimitri brings the club down with all his might, aiming to crush Cion. The table in front of Cion shatters under the force of the blow, sending books and debris flying, but Cion narrowly dodges the strike, jumping away just in time. Dimitri, his composure shattered, looks deranged, screaming incoherently as he lifts the club again for another strike. Cion wastes no time, launching himself at Dimitri and securing him in a rear naked choke, wrapping his legs around Dimitri's massive frame. Despite Dimitri's strength, he struggles to move, his breath coming in ragged gasps as Cion tightens the chokehold. Mockingly, Cion comments that Rachel would never be interested in someone so persistent and clingy, twisting the knife with his words. As Cion tightens his grip, Dimitri's hold on the golf club weakens, and it clatters to the ground, soon followed by Dimitri himself, who finally succumbs to unconsciousness after the brutal and drawn-out battle. Cion stands over the fallen giant, victorious but not unscathed. As he catches his breath, his attention returns to the photo he had picked up earlier. Inside a folder, he finds pictures, one of Cion as a child, another of the principal of the school. But it's the third photo that truly surprises him, the unexpected revelation leaving him momentarily stunned. In the dimly lit swimming pool hall, Eugene stands alone in the bleachers, his eyes scanning the water below. He is searching intently, his mind racing with possibilities as he tries to discern whether something or someone might be hidden beneath the surface. His focus is abruptly shattered when the slender man who had been seen earlier with Dimitri in the CCTV room suddenly appears beside him. Eugene starts, his heart pounding from the shock of the man's silent arrival. It becomes immediately clear to him that this is no ordinary adversary. The man's stealth and sudden presence signal a level of danger that Eugene can't afford to underestimate. The slender man's voice, laced with mock concern, breaks the tense silence, asking Eugene what he's searching for. Eugene, still rattled, quickly tries to regain his composure, but his thoughts are racing. He hadn't heard or sensed any movement, something that would be nearly impossible with a normal opponent. This realization only deepens his unease as he realizes he's facing someone who is far from ordinary, someone whose skills may far exceed his own. Feigning casualness, the slender man inquires whether he had frightened Eugene, though there is a faint undercurrent of amusement in his tone. Eugene, though internally gripped by concern, remains outwardly composed, his mind working rapidly. He knows he needs to alert Rachel about this unexpected and dangerous situation. However, as he reaches for his communication device, the slender man, noticing the attempt, calmly informs Eugene that it's useless. He has already set up a jammer, effectively cutting off any chance of outside help. The man's suggestion that they should play instead is delivered with a cold, fake smile as he begins unzipping the long shoulder bag he carries with him. Realizing the gravity of his situation, Eugene instinctively reaches for his butterfly knife tucked in his back pocket, his fingers brushing against the cool metal as he assesses his options. He quickly concludes that a direct confrontation with this man would likely be disastrous. Instead, he decides on a different tactic, one that might catch his opponent off guard. Suddenly, Eugene breaks into loud, exaggerated sobs, pleading for mercy as if he were a frightened child. He begs to be let go, claiming that he is merely there because he was told to be, and that he wants nothing more than to go home. To his surprise, the slender man appears to be taken in by the act. He watches Eugene cry with a mix of amusement and concern, his voice softening as he gently asks Eugene to stop crying. Eugene, sensing that his ruse might be working, continues to play the part, wiping at his tears and sniffling pathetically. However, just as he begins to think that he has gained the upper hand, the situation takes a violent turn. Without warning, a bat swings through the air with a whooshing sound, crashing into Eugene and sending him skidding across the ground. The blow was delivered with such force that it could have caused serious harm, but Eugene had managed to raise his arms in time to block it, though the impact still leaves him reeling. Eugene grimaces, the pain coursing through his arms a stark reminder of how dangerous this opponent is. He can't help but think to himself how ruthless the man is, attacking someone he believed to be a crying child without a moment's hesitation. As Eugene struggles to recover, the slender man casually lifts the hair from his forehead, a mocking smile playing on his lips as he wonders aloud what he might have done to make Eugene cry. His eyes glint with a sadistic glee as he laughs maniacally, clearly reveling in the violence he has just inflicted. He exclaims, his voice filled with twisted joy, that this fight is going to be fun, and that the impact of the bat was truly satisfying. Standing over Eugene with an air of triumph and cruelty, the slender man, Yuri Smirnov, better known by his alias, Gopnik, is a new recruit to Barefoot. Despite his recent addition to the ranks, Yuri is already proving himself to be a formidable and sadistic opponent, one who takes pleasure in inflicting pain and enjoys the thrill of the fight. His unsympathetic demeanor and deranged laughter make it clear that Eugene is in for a brutal and merciless battle. He laughs, taunting Eugene to cry out like he was pretending to do every time he hits Eugene.